And now is the time we prepare for meditation. I invite you, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes. Get things out of your lap. Get those feet firmly placed on the floor. Let's begin taking in some deep breaths. Perhaps breathing into a count of 3 and breathing out to a count of 3. Allow your body to relax and be completely supported by the chair in which you're sitting. That holy breath of God breathes us into this now moment, this perfect time for us to remember who we are in this here and now moment. We are peace. We are harmony. There's no place we need to be, nothing we need to do but to just breathe and center here and now in this holy moment. As the beautiful song says, I am free. I am free here and now. Past is gone, it doesn't matter. We're moving on from this day forward, but we belong in this present moment here and now. This is where the joy lives. This is where the magic happens. Not on clinging to the past or being concerned or worried about the future. It takes us away from the peace that we are, the peace that we came here to be, the love that we came to be, the light that we came to shine, that holy light of God that we are. We are the hands and the feet and the ears and the eyes and the mouth of God. God is spirit. God has no physical body. We are that expression here to live that love, to be that peace, to be the example for others. And we can only do that in this here and now present moment. And so I invite you into a moment of stillness that you feel that holy light of God that you are. That you feel the love that you are, that you reconnect and remember the essence of your being right here, right now, in the silence. Today is all about the love and how we create our choices from that place of love that we came here to be. How we choose to make decisions and allow our will to be God's will for us by following our heart's desires. By being present here and now and experiencing the peace, that peace that passes all understanding is in the here and now moment. And so we're grateful, and our hearts are filled with gratitude for this knowing that you can visit this moment anytime you choose to pause and breathe and feel the presence and the power of God that you are. And now we bring our focus back into this room. And whenever you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. So here we are at the 250th celebration of our country, the Declaration of Independence. And you know, it's funny how my mind works, because I went back to the date that Ray and I got married was in 1976. The country was celebrating its 200th. It was the bicentennial, so it was always easy to remember that anniversary. And we made it to 42 years, but what I realized was it would have been 50 years because the country's now celebrating the 250th year. Isn't time interesting? Isn't it interesting? I can't believe that I've been a widow for 8 years. I can't believe that this is the celebration this weekend of the beginning of my 11th year in this ministry. I feel like I've lived many lifetimes. Even before that marriage, I feel like I've lived lifetimes. Time is a funny thing. It is a really funny thing. And I know many of you feel like you've lived multiple lifetimes within what you have already lived. And yet it is just a blip in the radar screen, you see. But this is the thing. This is the thing I want you to hear. I made very clear, conscious choices about all of those major decisions in my life. It was spirit-led, spirit-driven. These things don't just happen. They come out of conscious, clear choices, paying attention and listening to Spirit. And I do not regret any of those things. Not one of them. Not one of them, because I'll tell you, those conscious choices are made based on following your heart's desire. Like I had no choice not to come here. I was drawn here like a magnet. Many of you know that story. I could not come. I knew I was coming before you even interviewed me. It was something that my heart was saying, leave Texas, move to Florida. You know, it was like, So anyway, happy 4th of July weekend. And we have a new affirmation and a new theme for this month. AJ drew this. Isn't this magnificent? He is such a good artist. So we're talking about flowing in freedom this month, and we're focusing on the power of will, and he's incorporated freedom and the colors and everything. So let's say our affirmation together. I am free in spirit. I flow with divine wisdom and strength. So my question for you is, what if freedom isn't about having complete control over your life, but about trusting in the divine flow within it? What if you trusted what is unfolding in your life? So many people think that they need to use their willpower to push through, try harder, control outcomes. You know, and Jesus demonstrated a completely different way. He modeled one that will is a surrendered thing. It's an allowing thing. He demonstrated how to be centered and completely aligned with the God within. He taught us non-resistance. So in unity, we talk about our 12 powers, and will is one of our 12 powers. It's one of our innate faculties, that we have as a result of being a magnificent child of God. And unity teaches that the power of will is our capacity to choose our direction. We make our fate. We make our lives. Nobody's up in the sky pointing down, doing things to us. We are creating it from our consciousness. So it becomes a spiritual power when it's aligned with divine wisdom and love. So when we make wise choices and we use that power of our love from our hearts, we make good choices. Your will is actually the fulfillment of your life, if you allow it to be. So our choices, our commitment, and our willingness is what creates the life that we're living. So today we're in the scriptures, and those of you that are new, we interpret the Bible metaphysically, so it's a little bit different than the traditional way. But we are in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. So hear these words. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And all of us, with unveiled faces, seeing the glory of the Lord as though reflected in a mirror, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, from the Spirit. I love that because Paul is reminding us that freedom is not something that we have to earn. It is a natural expression that comes from living a spiritual life. It's already ours. It seems to me that this particular scripture is a call to action. Notice the progression of the scripture. The Spirit is present. We're acknowledging it. The freedom follows. And then there's transformation. And transformation isn't forced. It flows. It flows because we're tuned in and tapped in and paying attention to Spirit and following that guidance. Often we get the guidance and we go, I don't think so. Not today, God. No, not happening. Not feeling it. Maybe tomorrow. You know, we question it even when it's very clear to us what we need to do. So we are transformed as we experience the full flow of divine power through our being. When we know who we are, that's principle one. God is all there is, all present in everything, including us. And so when we experience that metaphysically, this part of the scripture that's talking about glory to glory, what it means to me is that we are destined to bring forth God's perfect pattern. We must eventually reach that supreme goal. Now, it probably won't be in this lifetime for any of us that are here present, but we know we're going to keep coming back until we have that ultimate supreme goal. But you know, we can feel the difference when we're alignment and when we're not in alignment. The difference between will that is spiritually aligned or not is this. The human will says, I know exactly how this should happen. And then we go about making it happen the way we think it should happen. And off we go into the control mode, right? However, the spiritual will asks, divine presence, guide me, lead me, show me the way. Big difference, right? Unity teaches that spiritual will is our willingness to cooperate with God rather than try to compete with life. Living our 5 principles that unity teaches, the 5 main teachings. Let's do them briefly. God is, I am, I think, I pray, I live. I live the truth I know. So when you're doing that, your life becomes so much more simple. And Jesus demonstrated for us how we need to live this. He demonstrated it in the garden. Remember in the Garden of Gethsemane when he prayed, not your will, not my will, but your will be done? He was acknowledging the terrible situation that he was in and his human dread about the circumstances that he was in, but he also understood that his purpose was much greater than his own personal safety. He knew that he was here for a much greater purpose. So this was not resignation on his part. It was perfect spiritual freedom. He had choices as each and every one of us has every single day. So when we stop resisting life the way it's unfolding for us and we begin to respond to Spirit, peace replaces struggle. Don't we want a little bit more of that? Who's up for a little bit more peace? Yeah? A few of you are. So freedom, you see, actually comes from letting go of resistance. So much of our suffering comes from resisting what's coming down the pike toward us. We don't like it. We don't want it. I didn't ask for this. I can't believe this is in my life, right? And then we resist and we start fighting against it. So we resist what is. Sometimes we're resisting because we're not satisfied with the current circumstance. We don't like what's going on. We want it to be different than what it is. We resist what has changed. Something's different. We don't like it. Not really being, comfortable with this. Was very comfortable before this change happened, but now I don't know. Not so much, right? Or we're resisting what we can't control, what we don't have. You can't control your kids or your grandkids. You can't control the weather. There's a lot of things you can't, have too much of an impact on. What we cannot control, we don't necessarily like, and we have our ideas about how this situation should unfold, right? Well, think about nature. The river doesn't struggle when it gets to a rock. It just flows around it. Like, oh, no big deal. This too shall pass, right? Whatever comes is only temporary because we're living in a relative world and it's all short term. Everything. So our power of will gives us the courage to release resistance without giving up our purpose, which is so very important. The reason that you're here, the reason that you chose to be on the planet at this particular time is because you are a light worker. You are here to help this planet move through all these changes. So freedom, you see, is not the absence of challenge. We wouldn't be learning anything if we didn't have a challenge or two now and then. Freedom is the absence of our inner bondage. We change our perceptions. That's what unity teaches. Change your thinking. Change your life. Do not be a victim. You are not a victim. You live in this consciousness of verity consciousness that knows that God is all there is. Jesus never promised an easy life. He promised what? An abundant life. He promised an abundant life. So even during the storms, he remained inwardly free because his consciousness rested in God. He had absolute trust in his Father. The Father and I are one. So I found this quote from Imelda Shanklin. She has a wonderful book, and it's called What Are You? And she says, to will is to choose. Your wisest choosing will let the will of God be done in you. So how does this spiritual will work? Well, it's pretty simple. When we're aligned with the Spirit within us, love flows, joy flows in our life, forgiveness flows, Creativity flows when we pause and pay attention to divine ideas that we get in meditation about how to unfold whatever it is that is a challenge in our life. We get divine ideas because we are in that alignment with Spirit. And then peace flows from that. We learn not to sweat the small stuff. It's so important that we become less concerned about forcing outcomes and more interested in expressing the Christ consciousness that we came here to be. That is our goal. And I know for many of you, you are on this spiritual path because you're showing up at the classes and the workshops, the meditations. You're doing the mighty work that we came here to do. When we do this, we become more accepting and allowing because we can actually trust Spirit to lead us. We can be allowing. We're in that place of willingness, right? Paul says we are being transformed. But that transformation, you see, it doesn't happen right here only. Transformation is ongoing. We're always growing and changing because we are eternal beings. We're going to come here and do this again and again until we get better and better. So if you look at this little lifetime, it's just a blink of the eye compared to who you really are. Every choice to trust moves us into greater freedom. So, I love Emmett Fox. Around the year, I read it every single day. And the last few days, he's been talking about reincarnation. He's been focusing on that, and he reminds us that this present life is only one day in your very long life. And when the events of this particular life appear in their true proportions, you begin to have dominion. You don't sweat the small stuff because you know this too shall pass. The events of this life will not appear less important because of your new knowledge, but they will no longer intimidate you because you will know that you can control them because you are a divine expression here in the one mind, the one heart, the one power, the one presence. That is you, and you have the power to create your life. So knowing our longevity then, knowing that, we can relax. Relax, take a deep breath, be in this present moment. In the 12 powers that Unity teaches, will is described as the faculty that helps us direct our energy where it needs to go. And when will is united with wisdom, there is nothing that can hold us back. We are all very wise, all of us, very wise. So what happens when we are in a line with wisdom, decisions become very clear what it is that we need to do. And I can tell you, I know it when I experience that. You feel it. You can feel it in your physical body. Fear loses its grip on you when your divine will is centered in wisdom. Purpose becomes more evident. And because of our divinity in principle 2, when we know that we are that divine spark of God, our words become very powerful. What we speak out into the universe becomes our truth. And so in Christian Healing, Charles Fillmore, an old book that our co-founder wrote a long time ago, this simple statement, I will to be well, I will to be well, gathers the forces of mind and body about this central idea of wholeness, and the will holds that center just as long as our I am continues its affirmation. So the I am is our Christ nature. It's the truth of us. It's the God presence within us. So when we hold that, I will to be well, the truth of you goes, oh yeah, okay, let's do this, right? We hold it, we claim it, and we know that it is the truth of us. So Linda Martella Whitsitt, my mentor through ministerial school, has written an article about will, about this lady who used the power of will. And she gives an example of this woman named Jean who had multiple chronic conditions in her body that made it difficult for her to even move throughout her day. But she developed a morning practice before getting out of bed every morning, and she used that I will to be well, along with her meditation, her breathing exercises, her yoga, all the things that she was doing. By choosing to anchor her attention on the principles of wholeness and well-being, she focused on what she knew was making her feel better, appreciating the signs of divine life in her body and in her mind, activating that power of will physically. Jean makes a commitment to do this daily, and even those days when she'd really rather skip it, you know those days? I don't have time to meditate today, you say to yourself. She draws upon the aspect of will that says, even though I'd rather not, I am nevertheless willing. Notice that she's focused on fulfilling her will to be well rather than trying to control her physical symptoms. He takes her mind off of the problem and puts it on spirit. Will is at its best when directed toward our inner spiritual capacity to fulfill the principle rather than fixated on the circumstances and conditions that are appearing in the moment. Emmett Fox talks about that all the time. The golden key, take your mind off the problem and think about God. Right? So ask yourself, when you're getting ready to do your meditation, these questions, because this is the practical application part of practical Christianity that unity is. Where am I trying to force life? It's number one. Number two, where am I being invited to trust? Very good, right? What would change if I chose alignment instead of control? I encourage you to meditate on these questions and create a simple daily practice. Pause. Take a breath. Pray. Choose love, and then move forward with the decisions and the clarity of your will focused on wisdom. This is spiritual will in action, and this is your path to real freedom. The Apostle Paul reminds us that where spirit is, freedom already exists. We have the freedom to choose how we think, how we act, what we believe, what we say, how we show up. It's all a choice. Nobody's making us do anything. Jesus' teachings show us exactly how to live that freedom. The whole New Testament is filled with us. Unity teaches us that spiritual will is the bridge between divine possibility and daily experience. Anything is possible, y'all. Anything, when you put your mind to it. The invitation today is simple. Stop forcing and start flowing. Flowing with the divine flow. Become aware that conscious cooperation with the presence of God is moving within us. As we align with our divine will, we discover that freedom isn't something we have to chase. We're not running after it. It's been with us all along. Okay, enough preaching. Time for a joke. Okay, so this couple, they're honeymooning in the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C., and she's a little nervous because of the history of the hotel, that maybe the room is bugged. So he said, "Oh, honey, do not worry. I'll check everything." So he goes on behind the drapes and he lifts up, he looks under the bed, he's looking all over, and he pulls up the rug and sees this metal disc there. He unscrews these 4 screws, throws that stuff out the window and says, "Coast is clear." Well, the next morning, the hotel manager came and knocked on the door. And he said, "How was your service? How was the room? What's been happening? Are you guys okay?" And the groom said, "Why all the questions?" He said, "Well, the people in the room below you complained that the chandelier fell on them." Uh-oh. Cute, huh? All right, I'm in all around the year with Emmett Fox. I'm closing with this. It's actually yesterday's, July 4th. It's called Your Own Place. If you say that you are unhappy, dissatisfied, perhaps ill or impoverished, a failure, this is simply another way of putting the fact that you are not allowing the will of God to have free play in your life. You are not doing the thing that He meant you to do. Discontent is not necessarily a bad thing. It is your duty to be discontented with anything less than complete harmony and happiness. A wholesome discontent with dullness, failure, and frustration is your incentive for overcoming these things. Whoever you are, your true place is calling. And because you really are a spark of the divine, you will never be content until you answer the call. Whatever you may be required to answer that call, all will He furnish if you be about His business and not your own. And so that's the way it truly is, y'all. God bless. Thank you so much. Okay, now before I call the ushers up, I'm going to ask Carol Johnson, who was one of the major volunteers at Peace River Wildlife Center. Y'all know we are very much a tithing church. 10% of everything that comes in goes out. And on top of that, we give $500 every quarter to a particular charity nonprofit in town. And so we are giving Peace River Wildlife Center a check for $500 for the wonderful work that they are doing.
Thank you so much.
Now, I want to tell you, they took in 289 animals just in the month of June and did 103 releases. So they do a mighty work.
We do. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Trace.
Thank you, and thank you.
Oh, I'm so grateful. And they're running, I get the email from them. They're running a fundraising thing right now through tomorrow.
Through tomorrow. I was out of town.
So take the check tomorrow.
I will do
and
that.
get it in the fundraising thing because I think it's going to be matched. Yeah? Isn't that great? Okay, now, let's see. Now is the time when we call up our ushers and prepare our gifts. And I know many of you give online, you give automatically. The money comes in all kinds of ways. But before we do that, let's say our affirmation for our building, please. I see our new building expansion complete, blessed and thriving. Prosperity flows freely, guided by divine mind and fueled by unwavering faith. Together, we hold the vision of our building expansion fully complete. We give thanks that Spirit guides every step. With strong faith and hearts united, we see it done, beautiful, blessed, and a beacon of good for all. We can hardly wait, y'all.